Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a quick vector lock icon, and then I'll use it in a subsequent video where we do some GIMP effects. But in order to do that video we need to have some vector artwork, so I'm going to show you how to make a lock icon in Inkscape. So we're going to just start with, it's going to be some basic simple shapes, rectangles and circles. And to do this, all you need to do is come up here to the rectangle tool and then drag out a rectangle. And it can be a little bit wider than it is tall. That's kind of how locks usually look. So after you drag it out, come up here and choose your selection tool and then just place it on the canvas wherever you want it. Now, I don't like these 90-degree corners on my rectangle. I want my lock to be round on the corners. So what I'm going to do is, with that rectangle object selected, I'm going to come up here and choose the rectangle tool while you have it selected, and you'll get these drag, actually they're points on the object that allow you to reshape it. But we're not going to use those. We're just going to come up here and we're going to set the radius on the x-axis and the radius on the y-axis. And I'm going to set them to 8. And you'll see what that does is it puts a curve on the corners of your rectangle. And that's about how I like mine to look, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And so there's basically the lock itself. Now we got to have, well, the body of the lock. Now we need to create the top, the arched part, and that's just going to be a couple of circles. So just come up here and select the circle tool, the ellipse / arc tool, and holding down Control and Shift, just drag out a circle, dragging at about 45 degrees, and you'll get a perfect circle if you hold down Control and Shift while you're doing that. And it doesn't matter what size it is. What we're going to do is, after you drag that out, come up here to your selection tool, and I'm just going to hold down Control, and I'm going to hit the C key. Actually, I'm just going to hit Control D, and that'll just copy it and it'll put it right in place. Now I want to change the color of this second one so that I can see it when it's on top of the other one. So I'm just going to select a different color other than black, and then I want to drag and select both of those, and then I want to align them so that they're lined up. They were at the beginning, but I messed it up when I dragged the top one off of the bottom one. So we're going to come up here to the panels in the upper right hand corner and click the drop down arrow, because I don't have an alignment panel visible here. So I'm just going to click this drop down arrow and click align and distribute. And now you'll see that we have this panel where we can align items with one another, or we can align them relative to the page. What I want to do is make sure that relative to is selected, either first selected or last selected. It doesn't matter which in this case. Sometimes it might, but it doesn't in this case. So when you select those, then just click this center on vertical axis and then center on horizontal axis, and it will line the two up. Now you can see that this yellow one is on top of the black one, and with my selection tool selected, I'm going to just hold down Control and Shift, and I'm going to drag from the upper right hand corner down to where I have something that looks a little bit like that. Now I want to select both of these again, and then I want to come up here to Path and choose Path Difference. And what that's going to do is it's going to punch out that center section and show me only the difference between those two circles, which is now a ring, which is pretty good, but in fact we could use it just like that, just by putting it down here on top of the rectangle. But I want a little bit of a space between the body of the lock and the latch part. So I'm going to create another rectangle here. I'm just going to drag it out like so. And it doesn't matter really where you put this. We're just going to cut off the bottom part of that ring. So select both of these and then come up here and do path, difference again, and now you'll see we have an arc that we can use to just place right above the body of this lock. Now that's a little too wide in my opinion, so I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit. And you may want to make yours a little taller even. If you do that, you'll see that it kind of distorts the shape, but you can do that if you want to. I'm going to leave mine like this just to demonstrate what we're looking at here. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap there. Select both of these, and I want to make sure these are aligned perfectly, so I'm going to come over here to my align panel with last selected relative to is set to last selected, and then I'm going to align them vertically, and you'll see that in my case the body kind of shifted over a little bit to the right, but now they're centered. So now what we want to do is put the keyhole here in the lock. So to do that, we're going to create a small circle, and you do that simply by dragging out an ellipse while you're holding down Control and Shift. Just drag out an ellipse at about a 45-degree angle when you're dragging, and I think that's probably a large enough circle, or small enough circle, depending on how you want to look at it. So we have that part, and now we just need another shape here with this one. And to do that, we're just going to use the rectangle tool like we did before. And you'll notice, because we changed the radius for the x-axis and the radius for the y-axis before, it still remembers that there's a radius on the corners. There's a corner radius on this rectangle. So I'm just going to leave it like that and drag out a tall, narrow, and actually that might be, yeah, that's going to be a little too much, but I think there's a couple of ways we could fix this. We could come up here and change this, or we could just make this circle a little bit bigger so that it's proportioned right, and then select both of these by holding down Shift and clicking each one. If you click the first one, hold down Shift and click this one, you'll get both of them selected. If you try to drag out a selection here, you'll see that that happens, and you don't want that to happen. If you try to do this, you're going to select all of it, and then you're going to have to deselect the lock itself. So I'm just clicking the first one, holding down Shift and clicking the second one, and then I'm going to align them one directly above the other, and then I'll select this lower shape and just move it up until it looks like a keyhole. Now I'm going to select both of these yellow objects and then create a union. So we're going to unify these, turn them into one shape by clicking Path and Union. And now we have a keyhole, but it's still a little too big in my opinion. You may like the way that looks, but I want it to be a little smaller, so I'm going to select this keyhole shape, and I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and just drag this down and shrink it, and it'll maintain its proportions so that it looks like that. Now, what I want to do is I want to punch this shape out of the lock, but first I want to make sure that it's lined up with everything else. So if you select everything here, we can just center this on the vertical axis by clicking this, and it's aligned correctly. And then if you want to center the lock or the keyhole on the lock's body, you just select those two objects again by selecting one and then holding down shift and selecting the other, and then coming over here and centering it on the horizontal axis, and it just kind of nudges that lock body up a little bit, which means now I got to move this up a little bit because I wanted a little bit of a gap there. Alright, so now we're ready to punch the keyhole out of the body. So we'll select this one, hold down shift, select the other one, come up here, path, difference, and now we have a lock icon. However, if you come over here to your layers panel, you'll see that it's more than one shape. And you have one shape that's the lock body, and then you have the other shape that is the I don't know what that thing's called, but the part that closes the lock. I don't know if it's called a closure, a latch, I don't know what you would call that, but at any rate, you have these two objects, and what we're going to do is we're going to create one object out of these two. So drag out a selection, select them both, come up here to path, and then create union, and now you have one object. It's a vector object, and you can tell because you can drag this thing up as large or as small as you want, and that's going to be good for how I'm going to use it in the next video. But what we need to do is export this and only this. We don't want the background, we just want the vector object as an image. So what we're going to do is come over here to the export panel. And when you select that panel, you're going to see here that we have a DPI setting. I want that to be 300. And then we don't want to export the document. Whichever one of these is selected, that's what you're going to export. We don't want to export the whole document. We don't want to export the whole page. We want to export the selection. So make sure selection is clicked and have this lock selected. And then down here, I like to click this export selection selected only, just to be sure that I'm exporting only the object. And then click your directory browser button here, and I'm going to put this on my desktop. So I'm just going to click desktop, and then I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call it lock.svg. And then we're going to change this to SVG because we want it to be a scalable vector graphic, which is what SVG stands for. We're going to save that on the desktop, and we're going to click save. And now that lock icon is saved to my desktop. I'll show you that here in a minute, but since we're done with Inkscape, we're done creating this image, I'm just going to close Inkscape down, and I'm not going to save this as an Inkscape file because I'm just using it for one thing. But you'll see here that I have a lock.svg icon or image on my desktop. And if you were to open that, if I was to open that with, say, a web browser, you'll see that that is a lock. So it's a lock image, and that's how you create a lock icon using Inkscape. I hope that helps, and thanks for watching.